Well, good morning, Bob.
Good morning, Bill.
And happy Columbus Day.
Yeah.
Today's Columbus Day. The stock market is open, the bond markets are closed, which means the Fed is closed, and I bet a lot of banks are closed.
Yeah, but Congress is working hard.
Well, they just can't reach agreement.
Although there's a lot of speculation. Normally this week is a week of recess, and Congress does not like to miss recess.
It was like us in school, right?
Yeah,
I didn't like to miss recess either.
So there was some speculation I saw this morning that they're going to do a deal today so that they can have the rest of the week off.
Well, I'd say the probability of that's very low.
Yeah, I'm afraid so. Yeah, they've got a long ways to go to get some agreement.
Maybe we should give them chocolate milk. We used to have chocolate milk at recess.
That'd be nice.
So
yeah. Make everybody smooth out a little
exactly. Sweeten them up a little bit. So today we're talking about a potpourri of things, and one of those things, it looks like, just from sort of reading the tea leaves, that Janet Yellen, who's been nominated to be chair of the Board of Governors,
right.
It will be confirmed.
It appears that there's enough agreement that she'll be confirmed.
And we have some Nobel Prize winners in economics, which we'll talk about. One of them is related to some of his work in asset prices, Robert Shiller. And we just have a sort of a potpourri of things to talk about today.
Well, I think that the markets like the fact that Janet Yellen, they could probably find someone they prefer, but they like the fact that she represents stability.
It's more the same.
More of the same. They know how to deal with that. And so the markets are telling Congress to go ahead and approve her. So I suspect she'll be approved. And so she is what they call a dove, in that she's going to probably continue Bernanke's policies right now.
That sounds better than hawk. It just sounds better. A dove is somebody, is a bird that everybody likes and that sort of thing. Yeah. Hawks are like, you better look out, right?
So they probably won't begin the taper now for some time to reduce it.
We've talked about like first quarter next year, maybe.
Maybe next year. There are a lot of people on the board that want to do it earlier than that, but I think with Janet Yellen coming on, I don't think she's going to be in any hurry. Plus, they've got a real problem right now. They can't even measure what's going on.
The government's closed, so they don't have any data.
Right.
Well, they've got limited data.
Very limited data.
They've got their own economics department, but even so, they're not getting much data, if any, out of the Labor Department. They're not getting much out of commerce.
Right. All the unemployment numbers, GDP numbers, all of those, they're not going to be collecting.
Well, depending on who you listen to, GDP is going to be severely impacted by the closure of the government.
Yeah, the speculation. Well, first of all, it depends on how long it's going to be closed.
That's right. That's right.
But
so let's draw the line in the sand. What is the economics estimate?
Well, it's like saying how long is a string. It depends on when it closes.
So if you were betting, if you were putting money on the table, how long do you think it would be closed?
I think that they will get a resolution of some sort before the 14th, which is when they expect to run out of money for the deadline.
That's 17th. There's the 17th.
Well, I've heard different days.
Well, the 14th is like today, right?
That's right.
The 14th is today.
That's right. You're absolutely right. I'm thinking of later this week.
So basically, let's say it's the 17th. So right. You think, let's divide or bifurcate this discussion. You think we'll get a debt resolution, one?
I think they have to. I think there's a general feeling that has to happen. And both the Republicans and the Democrats are looking for ways to do that.
That's different from reopening the government.
I understand that. But I think at the same time that they extend the debt limit, they will reopen the government temporarily.
So you think it'll reopen and they'll do a few things and then
right.
They'll
then they'll renegotiate and then they'll close it again in a few months.
So you think that basically people want some relief so they can go home and take recess?
I do. I honestly do. I think that they want to get back and tell everybody how hard they've been working, and that they need to be reelected.
Now the congressional elections are not this year.
I know they're next year.
But the Senate elections are, I guess some of them are this year, right? Or is it next year?
No, they're all
next year. So we have state elections this year in a lot of the various states.
Right.
So let's talk about that a moment and its impact on race. Let's go down the scenario of a default. either, in fact, Bob Parsons was on CNBC Squawk Box this morning, former chairman of the board of Citigroup, and he was talking about basically the nuances of default.
Right.
One of the things that was asked, if your liabilities are greater than your assets, that's a type of default. But if you can't pay your bills, that's also a type of default.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of speculation's about is, the Republicans are saying, well, it's no big deal, at least some of the Republicans are doing, are saying it's no big deal if we default on these things, because the Treasury can manipulate things enough that they can pay off our debt and then just not pay our bills, and so that's no big deal. Everybody, I've heard several of the congressmen said, when I ran my business, we did that all the time. We just didn't pay a lot of our bills.
That's a sad note for a member of Congress to say.
I know.
Regardless of the party.
Yeah, and but that's some of the speculation. I think it's really an odd situation because in the House right now they've got a small group that's really dictating how all the Republicans are going to vote, and there's a great deal of speculation that if there were a vote on the current Senate resolution today, it would have passed, but Boehner won't put it on the floor because he's afraid of angering the more conservative group in the Republican Party. So I don't really know what's going to happen. They every time they speculate that they've come up with some sort of solution, the Tea Party group comes out against it, and so it's not real sure how these things are going to work out.
For our viewers and listeners out there, let's talk a little bit about why a default is important, or lack of a default is important. First, the United States has incurred debts, and this is directly related to mortgages. We have debts in the form of Treasury bills. Right. That are short-term in their nature. They tend to be for short-term funding. Basically, when the United States Treasury issues a Treasury bill, it's got a maturity essentially of 1 year or less. Then they issue notes, Treasury notes, that typically have a maturity of 1 to 10 years. And mortgage rates tend to be tied to those 10-year notes or Treasury bonds, which have a maturity of 10 to 30 years, but they've essentially done away with a 30-year bond for all practical purposes. And so what we've done is we've borrowed from investors as a country, and they have to roll those over periodically. And you say, well, we've already incurred those debts, they've already got interest rates on them, right, or we've sold them at a discount, they've got implied interest rates, but it is the rolling over of that debt that we have to do.
Right. And it's kind of odd, the structure that we have that causes that debt. If you think about it, we have a Congress that passes laws that the government is supposed to implement.
Right.
All right.
The executive branch
is supposed to implement. The Congress passes a law. The executive branch is supposed to implement those laws. Then the Congress passes a budget to support those.
Well, an appropriations bill, right? They appropriate the money.
Right. Now, if they choose to appropriate less than what it takes to support the laws that they've already passed, that difference is the deficit, all right? And so we have to borrow that difference between the laws that they passed and the budget that they have approved.
Or in some cases, well, just the flip side of that is you spend more.
Right.
And then basically you're spending more than you have. You've taken in.
Exactly. And so that deficit is a natural phenomena that comes from the laws you pass and the appropriations that you pass. And so it kind of is strange then that you put a limit on that deficit because you have the opportunity to increase the budget or change the budget by increasing revenue or cutting costs. You can do that directly, or you can change or remove some of those laws that you've passed that you have to fund. And yet, there's this third piece out there that just sort of doesn't make any sense in terms of the debt limit. But it does exist, and there's a lot of people who say that it's that it would not be a problem for the executive branch to just ignore that debt limit and just go on and spend and do because it's already been the laws have been passed, they're supposed to implement them, you know, so, I don't know. Anyway,
Well,
we're out of time.
We're out of time. Well, this is we could call it the Columbus Day version of potpourri. We certainly appreciate you joining us today. This is FNC's Morning View. I'm Bill Rayburn with Bob Dorsey. You all have a fantastic week.